extraordinary diversity of life on Earth reveals itself in a stunning variety of shapes and colors that paint a unique picture of our planet. Over the eons, plants and animals have evolved to interact with each other in an exquisite balance to form the great tree of life. Our own survival depends on these different forms of life, from the tiniest to the very largest. Biodiversity provides natural services that allow different forms of life to breathe, eat, and reproduce. It regulates the planet's climate and purifies its soil and water. This extraordinary diversity of species, which interact in equilibrium in Earth's various ecosystems, is the very foundation of everything in our world. But unchecked exploitation of the Earth's resources is now threatening this balance.
Biodiversity is not just this abstract concept in halls of science. It's the living underpinning of our lives. And I think in 100 or 200 years, when lots of our geopolitical melodramas have been forgotten, I actually think the world is going to judge this moment that we're in now very much on how we grappled with this issue. So it's exciting to be a part of it at the same time.
The first forms of life arose in the oceans about 3.8 billion years ago. Through natural selection, the driver of evolution, a multitude of species came into existence, forming the basis of the diversity of life as we know it today. But this biodiversity is now threatened. If nothing is done to correct the situation, between 1/3 and 1/2 of all living species could disappear by the end of the century. The oceans are the largest ecosystem on Earth, but our exploitation of their resources is far beyond their ability to regenerate.
The fishing techniques we use today are like warfare, a war we are waging against fish.
It is estimated that 87% of the Earth's oceans are overexploited or exploited to their limits by the fishing industry.
The way fisheries are controlled out here in the open sea, it's no man's land. It's everyone take all. Everything is for free.
The spectacular growth of industrialized fishing has caused an alarming decline in fish stocks, a decline that threatens the very survival of the fishing industry.
If we would be to take all the subsidies to the fishing fleets, most of those fleets would stop the day after.
In recent decades, stocks of large fish in the world's oceans have plummeted by 90%. These large predators are essential to the balance of marine ecosystems.
All the data says we have a big, serious crisis. But what I like to say is that extinction is only inevitable if you watch it on TV.
For several years, the oceanographic schooner Sedna 4 has crisscrossed the Earth's oceans. Mission leader, Jean Lemire.
We have embarked on a 3-year trip around the world to assess the state of biodiversity. Our mission, 1,000 Days for the Planet, will allow us to meet with scientists who dedicate their lives to the comprehension of what is critically at stake regarding our environment.
le texto.
The Sedna heads to Costa Rica in Central America, where the economy depends in large part on the extraordinary biodiversity of its national parks. Every year, tourists from around the world come here to get in touch with nature. The magnificent beach of Playa Grande in the Guanacaste region receives its share of tourists. But come nightfall, they give way to biologists and volunteers. Tonight, like every winter night, the beach belongs to one of the ocean's oldest creatures, the leatherback turtle. At high tide, this female has come to lay her eggs, as her ancestors have done for nearly 100 million years.
We spent 20 years, the best years of our lives, saving these turtles, right?
Biologists James Spotilla and Frank Palladino founded the Leatherback Trust, an organization dedicated to saving Pacific leatherback turtles.
We've been protecting every nest on the beach, protecting all the turtles, producing lots of hatchlings. They take 15, 20 years to mature. We've been doing this 20 years, so we're starting to see new turtles coming.
It is estimated that 60% of leatherback turtles have disappeared in the past 30 years.
She looks to be about 145 centimeters long, probably around 18 to 20 years of age, and she's finished nesting. She's now in the process of early bearing, but you can see how delicately she's using her hands to pat the sand down and to pack it so that the eggs are in a nice location, and then she will start to camouflage and cover all around here. And in 60 days, hopefully at this point, some turtles will dig their way up and out and head out back out to the ocean. In 1980, there was over 100,000 females nesting in the Pacific alone. Now we estimate there's only about 1,500 to 3,000, and that's since 1980. And the only thing that has changed is the impact that humans have had on them. We take away the beaches because we develop them to have our recreation and hotels and so on, so they can't reproduce on their natal beaches anymore. We changed our fishing practices in the 80s. Now we have long lines, which by accidental bycatch will kill turtles, and the estimates are that about 20,000 turtles a year. And the third thing we did was we harvested their eggs.
According to popular belief, these eggs have aphrodisiac properties, creating a black market that thrives even today.
In California, especially along the Pacific, they have swarms of jellyfish, and they say, we never had swarms of jellyfish before. And I tell them, you've taken the major predators of jellyfish out of the ocean. Where there used to be 100,000, now there's only 1,500. And each of those turtles would eat an estimate of 90 kilograms of jellyfish a day. And not only do those jellyfish have an impact that we have to close the beach because you're going to get stung, but they eat the little fish in the ocean that grow up into the big fish that we like to catch and eat. So the more jellyfish you have, the more problems there is also. So when you say, are leatherbacks important to save? I say, well, there's a good example for you. Right here on the tag, it tells you what time she came up, when she started digging, when she's covering. She did lay 49 eggs. We know what season that she has come in. There is a cohort of 4 or 5 females that have nested here for 4 different seasons, and it's almost 20 years apart from the first time we've seen them to this time. So we know an awful lot about the demographics of these turtles.
Of the 7 turtle species living in our oceans, 6 are on the red list of threatened or vulnerable species. But turtles are not the only members of this unenviable list. Another emblem of our oceans has a troubled coexistence with humans: the shark. Sharks have existed in our oceans for over 400 million years. Yet today, about 1/3 of the world's species of sharks and rays are threatened with extinction, primarily because of overfishing. Large ocean predators, which play an essential role in maintaining balance in our ecosystems, are on the losing side of decades of exploitation.
There are recent scientific publications that say that, in general, all marine predators have declined 90% in the last 50 years. So, you know, it's not looking good.
Biologist Randall Azores is internationally recognized for his efforts to protect Costa Rica's turtle and shark populations. As an activist, he uses every means at his disposal to raise awareness of the catastrophic decline of turtles and sharks around the world. Through protests, school programs, and negotiating with fishermen, Randall tries to educate the public about the importance of large predators in ecosystems. And he wages an unrelenting war against long-line fishers who indiscriminately target large fish species.
A friend of mine was lucky enough and he was able to get a job on one of these longline boats as a cook. So when he got the job, he told me. So we put that camera on the boat with my friend, and he was acting like it was a family video. And sure enough, he brought video of leatherback sea turtles on the long lines, sea lions on the long lines, molas, all sorts of wildlife. So this is the first time we're getting a glimpse of what is occurring with the longline fishery, the bycatch problem that it constitutes. And at the very end of the video, they pull up a shark. They hack off the fin and they throw the shark back into the water. And I was just stunned. Like, what was that? What just happened?
What Randall had just witnessed for the first time was the cruel practice of shark finning. In its most barbaric form, the shark is dragged onto the boat, where the fishers hack off its fins and tail. They then throw the shark back to sea, often still alive. Unable to swim, it dies a slow death by suffocation. These images sparked an outcry against this practice.
First of all, it's cruel. It's a cruel, painful death for these magnificent animals. From a more technical point of view, it's unsustainable. They're wiping out marine biodiversity so that a culture on the other side of the world can have their shark fin soup.
Shark fins represent only about 5% of the animal's body mass, but they can fetch up to $400 per kilogram, making them one of the most valuable marine products in the world. It is estimated that between 40 and 70 million sharks are killed every year for this controversial market. The Sedna stops on the island of Fayal in the middle of the Atlantic. Sitting astride the mid-Atlantic ridge, the Azores archipelago is the result of 20 million years of volcanic activity. These spectacular islands, which emerged from the ocean only 5 million years ago, are still changing under the effects of volcanism and shifts in the 3 major tectonic plates that meet here. Deep in the ocean, seamounts rise toward the surface, causing an upwelling of ocean currents. This, in turn, sustains an abundance of marine life. The exceptional richness of these waters attracts many different species.
The most important fishing grounds in the whole of the Azores. You have these two major...
Pedro Afonso, a biologist at the University of the Azores, works with a team of scientists to better understand the role of large predators in ecosystems.
Which means that it's probably the time...
A shark specialist, he has earned the trust of local fishers. Thanks to the long-standing relationships Afonso has developed, the Sedna's mission leader, Jean Lemire, is allowed to experience life aboard a long liner. These fishing boats are frequently portrayed as the source of all evil.
Our old ideas of the sea and products of the sea are a thing of the past. The fishing techniques we use today are like warfare, a war we are waging against fish.
This long liner alone will cast nearly 100 kilometers of line, containing thousands of baited hooks. The line is reeled in every 12 hours over the next 3 weeks. This represents over 40 periods of intensive fishing, regardless of conditions. Although this fishing technique is not highly selective, the fishers are primarily seeking swordfish, a large predator that fetches good prices. Fishing boats have operated in these rich waters for years. But despite the use of ever more effective fishing techniques, catches are declining. Today, far fewer swordfish and other large fish are caught in the waters off the Azores. And it's the same around the world. Yet fishing pressure today is greater than ever. The largest fish are preserved on ice to supply the insatiable market for fresh fish. Since a fishing trip lasts at least 3 weeks, the fish sold in supermarkets have often been caught a month earlier. Current regulations specify a minimum catch size for swordfish. Legally, smaller fish must be thrown back. But in general, these young swordfish are cleaned and frozen to be sold later. This practice is illegal. Biologist Gonzalo Grassa often serves as a scientific observer on fishing boats.
How can we avoid that situation where, you know, they are catching fish that are too small? That's probably difficult, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the ways can be increase the size of the hook, and there are several kinds of hooks. There are some twisted, and well, but when they use another kind of hook, they don't catch so many fish, and they prefer to catch a little bit more fish, but smaller than no fish.
Fishermen dispute this regulation on fish size. They contend that since most of the young swordfish are already dead when they haul them aboard, they don't see why they should be forced to throw them back. With no one enforcing the regulation, young swordfish continue to be caught.
The long line.
Long lining is fishing at an industrial scale. It's a perfect example of everything that's wrong with fishing. It's a world unto itself, where companies do practically whatever they like. It's like a city without a police force that's controlled by gangs and mobsters. It's incredible.
The major decline in swordfish stocks has given rise to a new market, shark fishing. Long viewed merely as accidental catches, what fishermen call bycatch, sharks were thrown back because of their low market value. But the expansion of the lucrative shark fin market has changed all that.
The fishery, at least in the Atlantic, shifted from a swordfish fishery to a blue shark and swordfish fishery. And actually nowadays the European fleet depends on the blue shark to make a living.
The commercial fishing industry now relies heavily on the significant revenue earned from shark fins. Sharks are no longer considered bycatch, and fishers are directly targeting the blue shark, an abundant species in oceans all over the world, to compensate for lower revenues from declining fish stocks. Unlike swordfish, most sharks are still very much alive when they are hauled aboard. But the size of the animal does not appear to be a factor for sharks. Even the young ones end up in the ship's hold.
The way fisheries are controlled out here in the open sea, it's no man's land. It's everyone take all. Everything is for free. And that isn't changing yet. And I think that is something that many countries have to work on. The United States, the Economic Union, Australia, which is a big fishing nation. And, you know, we need to get together and change the way fishery policy is established.
From a regulatory standpoint, there is a huge difference between the kind of shark fishing done on this longliner and finning, the practice of removing only the shark's fins before throwing the animal back to sea. Horrific images of finning have been shown around the world, and public opinion has turned against this cruel practice. More and more countries now ban shark finning.
Our campaigns have had major impact in Costa Rica. For instance, we were able to create laws against shark finning. There's a real famous law now that you can only allow sharks to be brought to port if they have the fin attached to the body. And this law is known as the Costa Rican anti-shark finning law. And right now we have 6 countries following this law: Ecuador, Colombia, El Salvador, the United States. And right now in the Economic Union, there are discussions to also impose this law. You must bring the shark with the fin attached. And shark finners say, oh, you can't do that, because if the shark is frozen, you can't take the fin off. And we have proven in Costa Rica that it is all a lie. You can bring sharks frozen to port, you can remove the fin, it can be done. Whoever says it can't be done is because they're shark finning and it's very uncomfortable for them to do it any other way. When we started these campaigns, 400 foreign longline boats from Taiwan would land their products in Costa Rica every year. Now we're down to 70 or 80. Unfortunately, I don't think we can really call it a victory until we push them out of Central America and hopefully out of the Eastern Tropical Pacific.
Faced with increasing public pressure, shark fishers must now keep the entire body of the shark, which is frozen and sold. This major change to the regulations means that most of the fish is now utilized. In practical terms, this kind of shark fishing is completely legal.
Before, the meat of blue shark was considered to be useless. Now we have a market to carry this meat, this protein, and distribute it as a wide variety of products, fish byproducts, from fish sticks to fish meal.
Blue shark carcasses and their precious fins are now propping up an industry that can no longer support itself because of its own past abuses. But what are the long-term consequences of intensive fishing on blue shark populations?
The international agencies say that stocks vary between very overexploited in the Mediterranean Sea, for example, to intensively exploited in the Atlantic Ocean. So it's not the most threatened shark population in the globe, for sure, but there are concerns as to the the point at which it can withstand the current levels of exploitation.
The expansion of industrial fishing is like a red stain spreading over the world. It starts in Western Europe, and Russia plays an important role, as does North America. It then spreads to the African coasts, and then to the South Atlantic and South Pacific. It spreads like a skin disease. And this wave, this red tide, gets to the Antarctic, and it stops, because it can't go any further. There's no future in fishing. Too many restrictions, and the finger is always pointed at us. No matter what we do, it's always our fault. So I don't see much of a future in it, especially shark fishing. No more sharks, no more fishing. All that's left is to break the ships apart and burn them.
The fishing fleets have grown in the past decades dependent on subsidies from governments. That is, the real cost involved in sending a fishing vessel out there with all the costs in fuel, in gear, in paying the crewmen, etc., is just not overturned by the real profit that the catch is going to make in the market. And the only reason why that fleet or that particular vessel is doing its everyday fishing is because it gets subsidies from all of us taxpayers to lower the cost of those items.
The destruction of marine ecosystems is being financed in part by government subsidies, amounting to anywhere from $20 to $30 billion a year. Yet it is completely conceivable that this money could be used to remove boats from the fishing fleet and retrain the fishermen. This would result in a smaller fishery that is sustainable and profitable.
If we would be to take all the subsidies to the fishing fleets all over the world, and in particular in developed countries, most of those fleets would stop the day after.
If the fishing industry is committing suicide, we must prevent that. But then we should declare it incompetent, if you will. If a system is not working, we should take charge of it, not let it spontaneously self-destruct. In the Mediterranean, fishing is banned for 2 months, and fishermen are compensated. Why don't Portugal and Spain do like Italy? Why not stop for 2 months in the summer? The fishing authorities know very well what goes on in the Mediterranean. We could protect our species like they do. And they don't even have quotas. But they make us throw fish under 25 kilos back to sea. Italy's part of Europe, isn't it? If the fish is alive, we remove the hook and return it to the water. If it's caught by the belly, we use it for bait. But if it's dead, what can we do? Bring it back to life? Of course not. So we keep it. It means more income, even if we're not allowed to keep it. We tell them that it was already dead, but they don't care. They say it's illegal, that they can't tell for sure if it was dead or not. And they fine us anyway.
The businessmen are in charge of establishing the policy. And of course, their policy is always considering their own pockets. What we need is fisheries directed with the public interest, with science in mind. How many boats can fish this resource? When should we stop fishing? Where should we not fish? then even if it hurts somebody's pocket, we must stop fishing.
How am I supposed to make a living? Offer me a good job and I'll stop. Offer me a job that lets me come home at night and I'll take it.
The time spent on board with these fishermen was a troubling experience. It is difficult not to question the morality of this new market for shark flesh. At the current market price, fishermen only get less than $1 a kilo, a tiny fraction of the price obtained for shark fins. At this price, is it a real and profitable market, or is it a way to skirt around the new laws adopted by numerous countries to forbid finning?
The good relation between fishermen and scientists is crucial to solve this big challenge we have in minds. First of all, we already talked about how important it is to get these crucial data. But there's no way you're going to get this crucial data without the collaboration between, the active collaboration between these two agents, because many times it's the fishermen that allow you to have access to those data. So that is absolutely crucial to start with. Secondly, the fishermen themselves have a lot of knowledge that very often is on the base of the scientific knowledge itself. So you will never get that knowledge if there's no trust between those two actors. So that needs to be part of the deal.
Our oceans have been patient. They have been patient with us. But now, the demand is becoming increasingly unrealistic. It's not hard to imagine a day when fishing will be mostly artisanal. There will be fewer fishermen because they won't be needed. Fish will be a luxury item, something you pay a premium for to eat on special occasions like a Christmas turkey.
The decline of fish stocks in our oceans has already begun. And if nothing is done to correct the situation quickly, this decline could reach alarming proportions. Globally, nearly 1 billion people depend on fish as their primary source of protein. So we must rethink our relationship with the seafood products we consume. Shark research is a relatively new field, and scientists will have to intensify their efforts to better understand the ecology of large predators if they are to propose effective conservation measures. Pedro Afonso and his team are trying to unravel the mysteries of the migration routes used by the blue shark.
We know where are the juvenile grounds. There's also some good evidence about where preferred mating grounds are located, but it is the pupping grounds that are still very elusive to science. We suspect that the Azores can be an area of increased pupping opportunities, only in a particular time of the year, which happens to be right now.
The Sedna, a former fishing vessel herself, will be the scientific vessel for this occasion. The goal of this mission, to capture a gestating female blue shark.
There is an era of research on marine ecology and behavior before the advent of electronic tagging and another one after the advent of electronic tagging. The capacity of these devices to open windows into the life of these animals and into the significance of particular habitats is just too precious for us to leave it behind.
Using satellite transmitters, scientists are able to gather an impressive amount of essential data, such as time and depth of dives, information about the physical environment, and, of course, detailed records of an animal's movement patterns. Lady Luck smiles upon the scientists. They have just captured a female blue shark, but they must act quickly.
Vertebrates in general have this thing called the tonic immobility reflex, which basically is when you're turned upside down, you become numb. And they get really amenable to work with. And we think that they also get a decreased pain function. We do that to promote natural anesthesia.
The satellite beacon is attached to the shark's dorsal fin. Every time the animal surfaces, the emitter will send the data stored in its internal memory to the satellite.
Of course, there's some injury inflicted into the animal, but it's minimal injury compared to the types of injury that blue sharks take during their lives.
Despite the size of this female, the scientists can't be certain that it is currently gestated. Sharks are viviparous, meaning that the embryos develop inside the female.
Look!
Oh yeah.
Look!
Oh yeah.
Baby shark, right here. Look at this. You asked for pregnant female. That's...
We need to be fast now.
Okay.
We want to be fast. We want to be fast.
Here.
Oh yeah, again. Females have this reflex. When they're close to be ready to deliver, if they're in life-threatening situations like this, they will try to get the babies out, even if it's a bit early, because they will survive, whereas she might not. So, well, that's a defense. She needs some water flowing.
Okay.
Okay. It's the kind of experience that provokes these contradictory feelings, right? On one hand, you're witnessing a rare event that actually tells you some very important information for the conservation of the species you're working with. On the other hand, we were a bit stressed as well because we didn't want to put stress in mom and on the little pups. The pups were not fully sized, which is about 40 centimeters. I would say those pups would be around 35 centimeters. But as we saw, the pups took probably, 3 to 4 seconds after an initial moment of confusion to swim away in a very steady way.
There you go. Hey, all right. All right. Okay. Right.
The temporary captivity required to install the satellite tag will not harm this female, which now regains its freedom.
Woo! All right.
The data collected by the transmitter will give scientists a better understanding of the shark's migration routes and help to better protect the species on fishing grounds, especially during this critical period of reproduction. Over the course of hundreds of millions of years, sharks have lived through every major extinction event the Earth has experienced. Yet, in only a few decades' time, humanity has jeopardized the survival of the ocean's greatest predator. And it is not alone.
You have an opportunity to see a dinosaur come out of the ocean and do all these very intricate behaviors. And I don't think there's anybody who ever walks away from this beach after seeing this experience that hasn't been awed. This is probably one of the magnificent sights that you'll see in nature. As adults, they don't have a predator, so they're very long-lived, but now they weren't living long enough to replace themselves. What I mean by that is each turtle comes up and let's say in a really good year they lay 10 nests of 65 eggs. That means they have laid 650 eggs. You would think that's a lot, but only about half of those eggs hatch. So that means there's 325 hatchlings. And now our data over the 20 years is showing that for 1,000 hatchlings that come up out of the ground, only one returns about 15 years later to start laying eggs. That means they have a 1 in 1,000 chance. So those 325 turtles that hatched in one season, that's not even replacing her. So she has to come back 3 years later, lay again. That's another 325. It still has not replaced. Has to come back in another 3 years, 9 years, or maybe 10, 11 total, because it's 3 to 4 years that they return. You finally have replaced the female, but you haven't replaced the male. So it takes a long time for these turtles to replace themselves.
This leatherback turtle now returns to the sea, leaving her precious eggs behind, thus perpetuating a natural cycle hundreds of millions of years old.
We have a national park with having a foundation raising donations, trained the local people, educated them, everything's great, and now climate change comes, just what we need. The problem for these turtles in climate change is that they don't have sex chromosomes, and the sex of the turtle depends upon the temperature of incubation. So at 29.5 degrees in a nest, you get about 50-50 male and female. 29, you get all male turtles. Above 30 degrees, you get all female turtles. And when you get up towards 34 degrees, they all start dying. It gets too hot. So the beach here is generally, by December, on a dry year, is running 30, 31 degrees. So we're producing females. And the projections are for climate change. As the Earth warms from global warming, this area of Costa Rica will get warmer and drier. Many areas get wetter, but this gets warmer and drier. Therefore, this beach will get hotter. And we will have to do some management, or we will, one, produce all female turtles, or second, they will all die.
Conservation measures alone are no longer enough to save the Pacific leatherback turtle. Soon, it will be necessary to artificially control the egg's incubation temperature to ensure the survival of the species. The tragic fate of the leatherback turtle is a prime example of the uneasy coexistence between humanity and the other forms of life on this planet.
We talk about sharks are going extinct, turtles are going extinct, how important they are for the ecosystem, you know, and we go to meetings and we go to conventions. So all this talk and talk and talk, but no action. Scientists are saying we have another 40 or 50 years before it's all depleted. In our lifetime, we may see this big dramatic change, and let's hope we can stop it. We need everybody's help.
I am a near-term pessimist and a long-term optimist. Now, in reality, all the data says we have a big, serious crisis. But what I like to say is that extinction is only inevitable if you watch it on TV.
We need a more sustainable management of global fishing in the world. And that might take the exploitation of lower trophic chain resources, which can still give good protein to people and release a little bit our pressure on the top levels. So balanced harvesting is becoming a major hope in the fisheries science arena.
The people working on climate change, they understand. If we add acidification to the equation, it's the apocalypse. Everybody loses. And in 100 years, there are no fisheries anywhere. It's unthinkable. Because if we can't solve this problem at the beginning of the century, there won't be a fishery at the end of the century.
We are the passive witnesses to our own decline, but we are also the species that hold the solutions to the problems of our environment. The sustainable development of the Earth resources is possible, and it is perhaps our only hope.
The conservation challenges are considerable, but it's not too late to act. Of all species, humans have benefited most from the natural laws of evolution, and we must show restraint and control in exploiting the Earth's resources. Is it not time for us to take another look at our relationship with nature if we are to preserve the extraordinary biodiversity that supports life?